A very solemn Happy New Year this afternoon, folks. January the 1st, 2025. This is a very special breaking McFiles live feed today. And as most of you know, we've got breaking news out of New Orleans this afternoon. And there's been a terrible, horrific attack in the hub of Louisiana down there, Bourbon Street, New Orleans. Also, we're finding out that there's been a Cybertruck bomb go off near Las Vegas, near Trump Tower. They're investigating that. One person is dead in that, and so forth. I want to just welcome my dear buddy. I really mean this today. I know it's New Year's, and I almost hated to ask him, and because his time is valuable to his family and all, and it's New Year's. And I want to thank Eric Caron so much, SwitchedOnLife.com, for joining us by phone this afternoon. And buddy, I want to tell you, I owe you a big one. When I see you again, I owe you a steak on this one for coming on New Year's. But I know you've got some thoughts and information. And I tell you, buddy, you warned us. You've been warning us for a year. You've been warning us for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years that this was coming. Stuff like this was headed this way. And it's all about the border. Let me do one house cleaning note, Eric, before I let you talk. Folks, I want you to listen. I know you got a lot of thoughts. We'll take your thoughts at the end of this interview. Please listen to Eric. Don't be a distraction out there. We love you today, but this is very serious. We want to get the information out, and I know there's a lot of information out there circulating. Some of it's not true. Some of it is true. And just let us do the talking for about 25 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll give you your chance to chime in. So listen to Eric and respect our guest today. Eric, good to see you, buddy. God bless you. And tell us what you know, man. It's just tragic. 15 dead, 30 injured as the latest figure I got. I heard 45 at one time, but Breitbart is still reporting it at 30 this afternoon. But I'm sure that number is going to go up. But car basically drove into a bunch of tourists last night, a bunch of New Year's Eve gatherers, man. That's what you get when you have an open border, correct?
Right. And first, Chris, let me just say Happy New Year's to you and your audience. It's a sad day. It's another reminder that we are, in fact, at war with the Muslim extremists. The Muslim extremists, along with Iran, has declared war against the U.S. many years ago. And unfortunately, the Biden administration has taken its foot off the gas and turned a blind eye and may even aided and abetted some of these groups, especially in Afghanistan.
Right.
And this is the result of a soft, if you will, approach to extremism, both here in America as well as in the Middle East. And unfortunately, I predict there will be obviously more of these types of attacks in the coming months because we know that there's approximately 1,000 bad guys, terrorists, that are here from the people that I know, and mostly from Afghanistan and Iraq. And as you know, it's been reported Joe Biden's administration's allowed over 13,000 convicted murderers into our country. And the police and our intelligence services are just overwhelmed.
That's right.
And we only have so much resources, so many men, so many women, so much technical equipment. There's probably over 1,000 joint terrorism task force cases, JTTF, open cases ongoing tonight. I'm sure that number is increasing as we speak. Looking at associates of the terrorists in New Orleans, they suspect a few others might have been a small cell. And as it's been reported, he might have been a former U.S. soldier,
yes.
Which I am not surprised, Chris. Early on after the Iraq War #2, as an agent, that was always a concern of mine and others, that U.S. soldiers in Iraq would become radicalized or recruited by ISIS or Al Qaeda and convert to Islam, and then come back to the homeland to carry out attacks or act as a source for ISIS or Al-Qaeda. So I'm not saying that's the case here, but it's going to be part of the investigation, peeling back the onion. You know, this guy's service in the Middle East, if he did serve in the Middle East, and was he recruited by ISIS or Al-Qaeda?
Well, his name sort of gives that away, Eric. Samsu Din Bahar Jabbar. I mean, and from what I understand, I've a couple of reports that I've read just in the last half hour. He was waving an ISIS flag. He had an ISIS flag on him. Some of the similar flags that they found in his stuff were, again, these Palestinian flags that have been basically waved at these college protests all year against Israel. And look, you know what happens with these things, buddy, when we have these things? We always find out later, and I think, and I'm not sure this is going to be the case, like you said, everything is so, you know, we're trying to get these facts as they come, and they're coming so quick. But I guarantee you we're going to find out he was probably on some kind of terrorist watch list. He was probably on a watch list by somebody, and they ignored him. I think the other thing that has not been talked about, and I saw the comment come up at the very last when we were doing our Facebook feed this afternoon, Texas gave this guy a tag, Eric. This is how stupid our government is. What in the is wrong with our government? Do we not care about the safety of the American people? I mean, he was driving, freaking around for 2 weeks with a tag, planning a terrorist attack. Do we not have any more common sense in the FBI than that? And Homeland Security?
I hear you, Chris. I mean, but we're looking at tens of thousands of these individuals here in America. So who do we, you know, they have to triage, the FBI, Homeland Security, and others have to triage who are they going to put resources on and surveil, listen to, and it becomes very daunting task when we have allowed the influx of thousands of criminals and terrorists into America. We only have so many, you know, resources, and my guess is that this guy probably was on the radar, fell off the radar for whatever reason, either radar by the U.S. military, or the agency, CIA, or the FBI. He was probably on the radar, somehow fell off, and, you know, he wasn't picked up again. You know, because this doesn't happen overnight, right, Chris? This type of radicalization usually takes days, months to do, meaning to radicalize.
Right.
And so and he's not doing this alone, per se. Even if he was a lone, quote unquote, lone wolf, he would have been online, you know, getting instructions, getting radicalized by an imam or others, having, you know, I call it dirty talk online. The target, you know, what's the target? At what time? Who, what, when, where, and how? So he's carrying out these conversations. They should have been picked up. And how long was he online or having discussions with other associates and it wasn't picked up? And why wasn't it picked up? Is it because of, you know, too many targets, little resources, or is it incompetence? I think it could have been a little bit of both, similar to 9/11. And, you know, we got to get switched on, Chris. This is a dress rehearsal.
I'm going to bring that up because that's what your text to me was this morning. And, you know, I wish you Happy New Year, man. And I've been out of it today a little bit. I've been sick again. But when you said, hey, Happy New Year, but it's a shame we have to start with a terrorist attack, and I had not even turned the TV on today. And when I turned it on, you said that very thing to me. You said, this is just the beginning. This is a dress rehearsal. And, Eric, you know, when we go back and think about the history of our country, and all of these things that have happened to it, and then you look at the pattern, and I think about this German attack back 2 weeks ago, buddy. It was the same IMO, because basically the driver, the terrorist, drove into that market and killed dozens of people there. This guy did the same thing. And I do want to get your opinion about the because there's an idea out there that he's not alone. There's 4 or 5 others that are possibly connected with this, and they have quartered off a part of Houston, Texas this afternoon, because they think that the explosives that they're finding there are linked to this New Orleans attack. Houston, New Orleans, roughly about 2 hours apart, and I don't doubt that there were other players. But let me bring something else into this. I'll let you chime in on all this, because I want you to talk about the connection, but also the Vegas thing. I think the Vegas thing is going to be tied to this as well. So it's not just New Orleans. And do you think that we've got a domino effect going on this afternoon? And I'm just concerned that we're not starting the New Year's off right, bro. This ain't a good way to start our New Year's off in America.
Well, they canceled the Sugar Bowl, and understanding that the Sugar Bowl brings in hundreds of millions of dollars. And
postponed
this is a decision.
Yeah.
Postponed. Did I say canceled? Yeah, postponed it. So they postponed it until tomorrow. I mean, and it could have been, obviously, resources. Again, they don't have the amount of personnel to be able to secure, if you will, that venue, the Sugar Bowl. Number one. Number two, it's been reported that there are at least 3 or 4 other associates out there, and they're concerned that they're going to target. And you have to think, and I've always said, large crowds are potential casualty. They're all about, the bad guys are all about body bag numbers. And the Sugar Bowl would have been a prime target. And so they made it, and I think rightfully they made a decision. The law enforcement, along with the officials who control the Sugar Bowl, to postpone that. And I think that's the right call, because there are active bad guys out there, part of the cell, if you will, operating. So really tonight, any city in America is a target, because we're so vulnerable because of the open border. All states are border states now. And all states, small, large, from Vermont to Oregon, are potential targets, because bad guys, and I've always said this, Chris, to you and your audience, that bad guys exploit our freedoms. They exploit trade, they exploit travel, and they exploit telecommunication systems for their own criminal or terrorist purposes. And again, the number one job of our elected officials, all of them, is to keep us safe. And
say that again. Wait, well, stop right there. Say that again. The number one job of the government of the United States of America is to do what, Eric? Go ahead and say it again.
Keep our loved ones, ourselves, safe. That's the bottom line. And because you can't have international trade or travel or banking systems where you can conduct financial transactions from your phone and do Zoom calls from here to Paris, if you allow bad guys to exploit it and harm us. And so our elected officials need to understand that's their number one job, because without security, you have no nation. And you have no trade, and you have no travel, and you can't get on a plane to see your loved ones wherever they may be, because bad guys are hijacking your planes, or you can't go to a stadium because bad guys are looking at detonating IEDs at a stadium.
Let me ask you this. Let me interrupt you right there.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but a question just came to mind, and if I don't ask it, I'm at the age now I'll forget it, so I got to ask it. Do you think this is a new pattern that they're doing, is targeting large groups, large outdoor gatherings? Because this is 2, and I think that this goes within 2 weeks. It's the same, again, pattern they did in Germany, Eric, and the media has clamped down on the details of that attack. You've not heard a lot about it, but the dynamics of it were almost identical. I'm with you. I'm glad that they postponed the Super Bowl tonight, or the Sugar Bowl. My Georgia Bulldogs were playing, but I was very concerned, because look, they're targeting these massive group events, and there's no doubt in my mind that you're absolutely correct. They probably had the Sugar Bowl in the back of their head to do something really bad tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, any large venues, Chris, because it doesn't, for them, the bad guys have always looked at targets that will lead to the biggest bang for their buck. So they're not going to target, a small event with only 50 people, 100 people. They want the large venue events such as Super Bowls, pro sporting, churches, malls, et cetera, parades, et cetera. So I'm not here, as you aren't either, Chris, and I always say this to people, I'm not here to scare anybody.
We're not, exactly.
We have to, information is power, and we want people to go and live their lives and be happy, but be safe. And that's the bottom line. Be happy, enjoy life, but be safe. And unfortunately, we have to realize that there are threats in this world who want to harm us. And what's happened over the last 4 years is that we have turned a fairly blind eye to it. The threat of international criminals and international terrorists. We've turned a blind eye to it. And they keep coming. And the local police, the state police, the federal authorities, they can't handle the amount of threats that are out there, Chris. And in fact, we had a Biden administration, just like a Barack Obama administration, who have took away, actually, resources from state and local police officers because they thought the equipment that they were getting from the Department of Defense looked like they were, militarizing the police in America. And so Barack Obama and Joe Biden took away military resources to the local and state police. And, they're the first responders, like it or not. Do we want to live in a police state? Absolutely not. But local police, state police, they're the first responders, and they need all the help they can get and the equipment. And Joe Biden, under the Reimagining Policing in America, 3 years ago, sent out an executive order, and anyone can Google it, outlining the fact that we will not allow local police to have military-type equipment. And they're fighting with one hand behind their back. And it's unfortunate. And I am concerned, Chris, because as we go on the air tonight, there's reports out of New Zealand that two police officers were just run down and by a vehicle, a targeted attack. I don't have the details, and I'm sure your audience can. Yeah,
I'm sure I'll find it. I heard the same thing. Let me again. I think I need to reiterate this to you though. So what you're saying is I'm correct, probably, that this may be a developing pattern that they're doing now. It ain't planes into buildings; it's trucks and explosively vehicles into crowds. Is that sort of something that we see happening? We're seeing it develop in a lot of these attacks here.
Yes. Well, why? Why is that? I mean, bad guys want to be able to carry out attacks without getting caught, for the most part. Meaning, or carry out an attack that they're relatively certain they're going to be successful in doing. So, like last night, on Bourbon Street, parades, malls, churches, et cetera, they're all soft targets. And so they get a pretty good bang for their buck, where, they can use their vehicle as a missile, just like they use planes as a missile. They can use a vehicle as a missile, and commit the initial act, and then come out with guns and IEDs. That's a pattern that we've seen in the past, and we're seeing today.
Let me ask you this. Sheila Daspit, my dear friend Sheila, good to see you this afternoon. She lives down there in southern Mississippi area, and she knows that Bourbon Street area well. And this, too, has not been reported. I've not seen the media talk about this, Eric, but this is interesting. And I want to get your take on this. She said the area of Bourbon Street normally has concrete blockades. She said a friend told her that they had the lightweight, and I've heard this from other people, they had the lightweight metal barricades up instead last night. Normally, you can't drive on that section of Bourbon Street. Now, you and I don't traffic in any kind of theory, any conspiracy theory, but I'm going to tell you something, bro. I'm just going to lay my cards on the table on this New Year's Day. I don't put nothing past this blanking demonic government that we've got over this country. I don't, and you know, Joe Biden's response to this today was pathetic. It was the most pathetic response as a leader. And I don't even know if Joe understands what went on in New Orleans. I don't know if he even understands if it was a terrorist attack. His mind is so far gone. But this is my question to you. And I know that we can't say for sure we know this, but I think it's a fair thing that we can question. I think it's a fair thing that we can, as American citizens, ask ourselves, are they doing something deliberately to provoke a major response to the point they shut this inauguration down? Look, the Trump Tower thing, I mean, that was just, to me, as dangerous, and I'm praying we get some answers on that tonight from what caused that. But, Eric, I think these things are being done deliberately. I think they let this, I mean, I'm not saying I don't know this for fact, but it would not shock me that they didn't let this, you-know-what, do this to hurt the American public. And Joe, this is Joe's burn it all down plan. And I think that's what they're trying to do, man. They're trying to burn it all down before January the 20th, because the Democrats have done that already. But they're gonna put Plan B into place, and that is just, we're not going to leave you nothing. Right.
Create chaos.
Come on.
And you know, you have to understand that this may have been a small cell. We don't know yet. But there's operational planning that goes on, including surveilling the targets. And who knows, they might have had somebody within the New Orleans administration on the ground who knew that, where the soft spots were to execute the plan and assisting in the execution of the plan. They certainly knew that those barriers weren't working. So there was certainly some preparation. To what extent, we'll find out more in targeting that area and analyzing where the soft spots were. And here we are tonight with, 15 dead. And if those barriers were up and operating, they might have gone to a different site or a different location.
Good point. Good point.
Obviously, they're hell bent on. Again, it's about body count and where are we going to get the biggest bang, if you will, for our buck.
Let me ask you this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask you is, I saw Danny Houston was a former FBI agent. He was on Fox this afternoon, and he tended to indicate this wasn't a planned out attack, and I disagree. With that fully. I do not believe these people like this. Look, Eric, the 9/11 hijackers, what we found out, had been planning 9/11 for almost 10 years. They had been planning any major terrorist attack, and you and I both know this. You've dealt with this, man. You've served in the theater of this over in the Middle East, bro. But anybody that studies this stuff and knows, and I'm not an expert on it, but I've read enough and studied it, and I've read these terrorist attacks, and you look at all of them, there ain't one of them that these terrorists just don't get up on a Saturday or a Wednesday morning on New Year's and say, hey, I'm going to go bomb New Orleans. I'm going to go drive a truck into New Orleans. That's crap. That's crap. Correct. They did plan this.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, I didn't see the interview, Chris, but you're absolutely right. People have to understand there's like you're saying, there's some form of planning, right? And logistical support, i.e., where did they get the weapons? Who paid for the weapons? Where was this guy living? Where was he working? Who was supporting him? Who was inspiring him? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who else was he talking to? So how did he select that site? Who did he talk to about that site? So yeah, there is certainly planning involved in the targeting, if you will, targeting sites. It's a spitball approach. They have a map, and okay, let's select our targets.
Right.
And where are we going to get the biggest bang for our buck, and how are we going to do it? The who, what, when, where, how. How are we going to execute? Where are we going to execute? How are we going to get the weapons? How are we going to get away? Is there a safe house? Where are we going to go sleep that night? Where are we going to eat? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they have to look at the logistics support, the money support is important.
Where do you think he got his weapons? You brought up a statement, I hate to keep interrupting you, but you're making so many great points. It's adding to questions, and I got a couple of questions coming out of the chat I want to ask you too, but I want you to talk about those weapons, Eric. They had to get these weapons from somewhere, brother. They didn't get them from the discount aisle at Walmart on a post-Christmas sale.
Right, and the ATF is and others are working to run down, if you will, those tracing those weapons, and we'll find out. If not, they know already. I mean, tonight the government knows where those weapons came from. More, I would state, 99% certainty that they know where those weapons came from. I don't know what these alleged IEDs what they were, but as you know, I mean, some of those improvised explosive devices could be made domestically buying ingredients here locally at a hardware store.
But my gut is, buddy, look, this man's name, and I'm not trying to stereotype people. I know people are going to accuse us of doing this, and there's something to be said about this, that every time there's a terrorist attack and the guy turns out, look, I could show this to my 6-year-old grandson and say, look at that name right there. Do you think that's an Islamic name? My 6-year-old grandson, who's the grandson of Christopher Wayne McDonald and he's a smart kid, I guarantee you he'd say, yeah, granddad, that's an Islamic name. And the media is downplaying that this afternoon, Eric. It don't take a genius to look at that freaking name and know he's from some Islamic hotbed somewhere. I mean, that's ISIS, man. But my question to you is this, is that when are we going to wake up to this danger, man, that Islam hates the United States and these nations do not care for us and they want us destroyed? And yes, they may be working glove in glove, hand in hand with this corrupt, demonic government that's probably got ISIS agents in it. So, I mean, it's so frustrating and mind-blowing. But I hate to tell the media, and the media's made me mad this afternoon, Eric, because they're downplaying this stuff. Fox is just acting like this is just a garden variety terrorist attack, but we're not going to tell you that it was an Islamic jihadist that probably was pissed off with the military, got weapons-grade weapons, and was driving a truck into New Orleans last night.
Right. I mean, this guy left a footprint, if you will, a mile long. Especially if he was part of the U.S. military at one time. I'll take an educated guess. If it's true, he was part of the U.S. military at one time. He might have been a translator for the U.S. government. I mean, he spoke Arabic, I would imagine. Let's take a wild guess, right? Because he's Muslim. And he might have been working, hand in glove with the U.S. military relating to ISIS, Al-Qaeda. Somewhere along the line, Chris, like I said earlier, he became radicalized. When? We'll find out. But was it while he was in the military? Was he approached by ISIS, Al-Qaeda? Did he, and what do we know and when do we know it? And why wasn't he interviewed? Why wasn't he surveilled? All these questions, we hope the government under Donald Trump will be transparent, under Joe Biden and won't be, because my guess is that this guy's been out there for years. For years. And all the telltale signs that he was, becoming radicalized. And I bet there was some issues, just like the doctor. You remember the terrorist incident that happened by a U.S. Army doctor at a military base. All the signs were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the signs were there that this Army doctor was being radicalized or became radicalized along the way. And we did nothing to stop him.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And so my guess is that this guy, similarly, U.S. military, trained and became radicalized. And we failed to address him.
Listen, it's New Year's, buddy. I'm gonna get you back on, and we talked about doing a show next week. I may have to get you back in here Friday night if this thing breaks even more. If we find something out, I'll call you. We'll do it by phone to make it easy on you, or next week for sure. We got you coming on next week, our first official week back after the New Year, and I want you to find out. I do want to ask you one thing. I'm seeing some of the comments coming out of the chat, and I can correlate this question. There's several things people say in this, and I'm not going to say that I agree with it totally, but do you believe this is an effort by the government to implement martial law before that inauguration?
I hope not.
I hope not either. I'm not saying, look, I'm not rejecting that theory, but as of right now, I'm saying I would hope that they would not stoop to this level. But you know, Eric, I didn't think they'd ever stoop to the level of weaponizing a freaking virus against us all 5 years ago, and shutting the freaking country down.
Or January 6th.
Or January 6th, doing what they did on January the 6th. Exactly.
And so, yeah, I mean, is it possible? Yeah. Is it possible? So, but, you know, time will tell over the next few days. Because there are, listen, if we're to believe the latest reports, which I would, listen, at the end of the day, again, let's just say he was quote unquote a lone wolf, Chris. He still was getting support from other people around him.
I believe
directly,
that. I believe
directly or indirectly. And whether or not these people, friends, family, other associates knew or not, we'll find out. But he wasn't, quote unquote, a lone wolf.
I don't believe he worked alone myself, but that's just my opinion. And again, I'm waiting to. I'll just let the chips fall where they may, bro. But my gut tells me that they were planning to do more last night than they did. And the Vegas thing today, you know, there was only one dead in that. But to me, it's the same. There was a vehicle involved, Eric. There's a vehicle involved. Same thing. Same thing that happened in New Orleans last night.
Well, we got breaking news again out of New Zealand.
New Zealand. 2 cops ran over by a car.
Exactly. So we pray. I pray for our nation tonight. I pray for those that are injured.
Yes.
And I thank you for the opportunity to come on, Chris, and share my thoughts. And people just have to get switched on and see something, say something to the local authorities. You know, no matter where you play, no matter where you pray, you got to stay switched on.
You do, buddy. Well, man, you know, you're part of this show. You're my brother in arms, and I appreciate you very much. And I'll see you soon. And listen, I want to thank you beyond words for coming on a holiday. I know that you've got your family too, and for you to take your time like you've done today has been one for the books, and I'll never forget it. And you've done this before, and I appreciate you always. And I want to tell you, I'll get with you. We'll get you back on. But if you hear of anything, text me, and we'll report it to the people, because we got shows tomorrow night and Friday night. And this has become the story, Eric, of the first week of the year. It's sad, but the world changes overnight sometimes, brother.
It sure does, Chris. And God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless America. Eric, God bless. I'll let you go, man. Have a happy New Year. Eric Caron, everybody. Thank him for that. And what a jam-up guy for coming on this afternoon. I want to just take a few comments, and then we're going to wrap this up today. As Eric reported, there is going to be the postponement of the Sugar Bowl, and that has been announced tonight. The Georgia Bulldogs were supposed to play Notre Dame. That game will be played tomorrow. So they basically shut New Orleans down for the night, and that's what we know. And the individual saying, why the lone wolf when we have cells over here? Debbie, he didn't say it was a lone wolf. Listen, he didn't say that. He said that even if he acted alone, he didn't think he was a lone wolf. He felt that somebody was helping him. He felt like somebody was helping him. And whether it was directly or indirectly, and I do too. And Jamie, I agree with you, buddy. Good to see you, Jody. I mean, there are people will do anything to stop President Trump's inauguration. 2025 is going to be rough, brother. Absolutely. It's going to be rough. It's going to be very rough. And so forth. And so forth. Some of these comments I'm not even going to qualify with statements, but I'll just say it this. Somebody asked about the truck. The trucker didn't seem to want to live. Look, none of these terrorists come into these situations wanting to live. They're cowards. They always kill themselves. He got shot and killed in this, and it don't matter whether the truck was rented in Tahiti. He brought the truck over illegally, and he was illegally. He wasn't supposed to be here, likely, and I don't think he was a U.S. citizen. It was confirmed this afternoon that truck was brought over the border, and again, if the government was doing its part, if it was doing its job, it would have never gotten brought over that border. And Texas gave him a tag. Evidently, he brought it over without a tag because the Texas government gave him a tag. So somebody at the tag office didn't pay any attention to who they were giving a tag to. I'm not blaming Texas for this. I'm not blaming anybody for this, folks. This is an evil man. But as we get more into this investigation, we're going to connect some dots. We're going to connect some dots, and we're going to find out that there were some other cohorts in this. But I think what you want to take away from what we just talked about is two things tonight. Is this the start? And Jody, your comment about 2025 being a rough year, brother. Well, it started out on a pretty rocky, rough start today. And I'm keeping an eye on that Las Vegas situation outside Trump Tower. And so forth. And so we're going to keep you posted on this. We don't have all the details tonight, but we are definitely going to try to keep you abreast of what we do know. Let me see here. Some other comments I want to make. I don't think, Curtis, that it was a lone wolf at all either, buddy. I think it was very much... I tend to lean... Breitbart was asking the question this afternoon that there were 4 or 5 others that maybe have been in the planning with him with this. And I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Look, it's New Year's. I would love to stay on here for 2 hours. I didn't come on here but to stay but a half hour with Eric. And if you got comments and questions, McFilesForum@gmail.com. The second thing you take away from this tonight, folks, we're in a dangerous time between now and January 20th. I said this today on the Facebook Live feed that we've been doing daily over there on our Facebook page. You better buckle up. You better grab your seat. You better get prayed up. If you've ever prayed for President Trump, you better pray hard for him tonight. You better pray hard for our country tonight. And I know some of you don't want to do this, but you better pray for Joe Biden. Because this cognitive decline man is still in power for 20 days. And I don't even know who's running the government at this point. That statement he made today about this come from a person that I don't even know if he realizes what world he's living in. I don't even know if he understands what happened. That statement was probably written by one of his stupid aides. And he probably don't even remember what he said. We've got a rudderless country for 20 days. Nobody's leading it. And these people like this know this. They know this. But this is just my 2 cents. The threat of Islam to this nation has never, ever gone away. And it is just as dangerous tonight, if not more dangerous, than it was on 9/11 of 2001. And you're going to see more and more attacks just like this. And I think, as me and Eric sort of said, I think that they've changed their methods, but they've not changed their ideology. They still want to destroy America. And they still hate Israel. I noticed that some of the Jewish Israel news sources picked this story up very quickly. And there were some people in that crowd last night. Some of the dead were Jewish people. And I'm following that sort of end of this story. I got to play something for you. This is to all you Jimmy Carter lovers that think that Jimmy Carter was a great guy. He was just a house builder. He was just a humanitarian. And he was just he's just a peanut farmer. He's just a sweet guy. And he did so much to help this country. Scott Jennings sort of told something last night on CNN. The CNNers didn't want to hear. You could tell by the guy's reaction. But you need to hear this. And I forgot about this, but thank you, Scott, for reminding me, because this is what happened after the first Gulf War. Roll tape.
In the run-up to the Persian Gulf War, he wrote letters
I know about this.
to all of our allies and to Arab states, asking them to abandon their cooperation and coalition with the United States of America. If it's not treasonous, it's borderline treasonous. And so I hear what you're saying about the humanitarianism, but when you're an ex-president and you have served in that office, I think you have a duty to the United States and only to the United States. And when he did that and other instances, to me, it showed that he cared more about his own legacy than he did about the country, and I think that is wrong.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. I play that for the first time in 2025. Boy, we got started out with a bang. We just getting started. Listen, I'm going to let you go. It's New Year's. Get back to your New Year's family tonight. But I want to come on, get Eric Caron's take on this. We're trying to delve into this. And anyway, we are grateful that you've been with us today. And we are so great. Sheila Daspit says that there are huge Muslim communities in New Orleans. And I agree with that, Sheila, I know. And I think that's something else that's probably not being reported a lot about today. And so forth. I'm going to say this about the comments about the martial law and the inauguration. I do, folks, I'm not naive. I get your concern. I get it. And I understand that, look, I don't trust this government past I can spit on this screen, and that's about not even 50 inches from where I'm at right now. I don't trust any of them. But unfortunately, folks, we got this government for 20 more days. I don't doubt they're not salivating at this. And I'm just telling you, don't be, I know this audience won't be, but don't let the media downplay the Islamic tide of this guy. And don't let them downplay the jihadism. It's the same thing. And I do have one other thing I want to show you. I mentioned the flag that they found on his being, they found on his thing. By the way, this was off of Twitter this afternoon, and this is from, I can't even pronounce his name. The same flag that he had in his possession can be seen at pro-Palestine rallies around the world when they chanted, "Globalize the Intifada," for more than a year. This is what they meant, and this is what they mean. That's what we were being screamed at by these punk kids that need a back-end spanking, and some parents with some balls on them that can basically tell their kids that this kind of disrespect is unacceptable behavior. But that's just an aside on this New Year's Day. Chris is just in a wired up mood. It must be that cough syrup that tastes so bad. I have had some of the most horrible tasting stuff over the last 48 hours. And Lord have mercy, man. Woo, trying to get better. But I just got me wired up today. But I'm just a South Georgia boy. If it quacks like a duck, if it acts like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's a duck. And if you show up with a flag that's ISIS related and pro-Palestine related, who hates Israel and hates America, guess what, baby? You're Palestinian, you're probably ISIS, you hate America and hate Israel. Duh.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It is elementary, my dear Watson. Elementary. People love that thing last night. They, they love that. One other thing I want to read from Molly Hemingway. I like Molly. And she wrote this, and I'm going to say goodbye. Chris Way and Merrick Garland focused on the FBI and the DOJ's attention over the last 4 years on Catholics, pro-lifers, school parents, election protesters, all while at best missing yet another terrorist attack. Well said, Molly. Well said, Molly.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. We just getting started. Folks, I'm probably not going to be on for the face show tonight. I wished I could. I may surprise you. As of right now, if we come on, it would be a short 30, 40-minute devotional at best, and to pray for the sick and stuff like that. I am still not 100% today, but when things like this happen, this is why our network exists, to come on and give you what we know. And we don't have all the information, folks. I'll be the first to tell you today. We don't have all the dots. We don't have all the fill in the blank on this. We're working on it. These things happen so quickly, and usually the information trickles out days after the event, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen here. So just stay with us this week. We will have a show tomorrow night, and we've got a show Friday night. We have a double feature. We're going to try to get James Akers to chime in on this, Brad Johnson, if they can do it this week. If not, we'll have next week. God help this country. God help this country. God bless you. God bless you. Deanna, I have been taking lots of C and a lot of oranges, and I would prefer that over the god-awful cough syrup. I don't believe the Antichrist is going to be revealed until the church is gone. But Deanna, this cough syrup, I think the Antichrist made. That's all I got to say. I just think the cough syrup that I've been taking, I think is made by the Antichrist.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary, my dear Watson. Happy New Year to you, Mac. Deanna, thank you. God bless you. Curtis, your point about Trump having his hands full. Yes, he is. Look, that's the other thing, folks. Look, I pray we get Trump into, I hope so. We're going to get to January 20th. But let me tell you something. This becomes his problem. January 21st. These people are here in this country. If you heard Eric Wright, he said there's roughly 1,000 people just like this individual right up here, this Samad Samsudin Bahar Jabbar. Again, I'm just a South Georgia boy. That is not a South Georgia Leroy Johnson name. And I don't mean anything by that. That's an Islamic name. That's an Islamic name. And if one person today, or last night, killed 15 and injured 30, probably could have killed more. You multiply that by 1,000, folks. Multiply 15 by 1,000. If all 1,000 of them were radicalized just like this guy, you do the math. I don't have to do the math for you. Not good. Not good. It's not good. Not good. Bear, good to see you. Cindy Mack's in the house. Prayers for Canada. And the Lord be with you, Deanna. Good to see you. I really appreciate you coming in when you come. God bless you, friend. It's always good to see you. And always good to see everybody. We appreciate those of you that have been with us today. And I want to come over here and tell our Facebook folks we're grateful for you. We do thank y'all for being with us last night during the New Year's Eve attack. And Lord have mercy. Man, I tell you what, it has been a wild start to the year, has it not? And a couple of the comments, I'll just come over here to the Facebook. Let's see here. Linda Wilson, it's not the year of Jacob's trouble. It's not the year of Jacob's trouble. It's not the year of Jacob's trouble. Sorry about that. It ain't. It's preparedness for that, but it's not. Marilyn Fenton says, I'm in Australia and we are America's allies. Do you think they will attack the allies as well? Yeah, Marilyn, listen, I would be alert. I would be alert overseas. I would. The folks down under, I think, and these other nations of the earth, I absolutely do. Look, they attacked New Zealand this morning or this afternoon, according to Eric. This police officer got ran down by the two police officers got ran down by a lone driver. and they're investigating that as a terrorist attack. Yes, I do. I actually do. And I think this is a worldwide thing. I don't think it's just going to be centered here in America. But, folks, these networks are not just national. They're international. And these cells are international. And I don't care if he bought the freaking truck at the Walmart in Cuba. This is an international hatred of America and Israel by the Islamic community. Not all Muslims hate America, but not all Muslims practice their faith. If all Muslims practice their faith tells them to destroy the infidels. It's about like Christians that don't follow their faith. If the Christians followed their faith, we would see a different country. But if the Muslims followed their faith, folks, the world would be taken over in about 2 seconds. That's just a thought. That's some New Year's wisdom on the first day of January, and it is...
Elementary, my dear Watson.
That's elementary, my dear Watson. God bless you. I got to get out of here. I'll be here all day, and I can't do that. Anyway, God bless you guys. And Pat and Deb Dolan, that is an absolutely great thing. I'm going to go out with this. Before I go, I want to read this comment. How many resources were used that could have been used to investigate terror, that were used to investigate Trump? Bingo! Bingo! I'm going to play this twice.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
That is...
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson, because if they wouldn't have been trying to get Trump, maybe they would have been investigating terror cells in the United States of America. Well said, Pat and Deb. All of you did a good job this afternoon. Thank you. God bless you all. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you maybe later tonight on the face side, but definitely back here tomorrow, okay? God bless you. Please be praying for your country tonight, folks. Please be praying for your country. God bless. Have a good night, everybody. And our prayers for the lost. I do want to say this before I leave. I hadn't even mentioned this, and I should have said this really at the beginning. Our prayers tonight for the loss of life, the families of the injured, and these that have lost brothers, sisters, mothers, dads, sons, daughters in this horrible attack. Our prayers go to you tonight. Our condolences, and we pray that God will comfort you during this time. And I pray our nation finds its soul and finds its footing to fight this evil and stand up against it. Unless we're not going to be a nation if we don't. We're just not going to be a nation if we don't. God bless you out there. I'll either see you later tonight or tomorrow. Listen, have a good night, everybody. Be blessed, and I will talk to you soon. Stay in touch with the world through the Mac Files. God bless you. Have a good night, everybody. Happy New Year.